this week's episode of For the Culture. We have our commissioner here, Jibreel Ali, well, our candidate for. So let's clap it up for him, man.
Appreciate it.
First time we had a politician.
Big news. Big news.
It's big.
Appreciate it.
Yes. So with your job of being a local politician,
Sure.
to have, like, how did you really learn? Basically, you know what? Let me do a full introduction
Alright.
to where, like, you know, let's go ahead and tell everybody.
Sure,
who you are.
I'll do my little soapbox speech. For me, you know, I kind of been in politics my whole life for over like 50 years. My family's been deeply rooted in this community, and more specifically, you may have heard a name like Mabel Butler. She was the first black county commissioner, and in fact, the first city commissioner. So here it is, I'm 8 years old, I see her getting sworn in at the city commissioner spot. So as a young dude, that kind of puts you in perspective. You understand what I'm saying? So that kind of got me started on like seeing how people can do some positive things. In fact, when I was 14, she ended up getting a street named after her, and she's lived on her street entire life. So if you're in Washington Shores area, you want to know who Mabel Butler is, she's still living, 90 years old, taking care of the what she called the young and the restless. There's an L. Claudine Allen Center down the road there. So she's got a long story about that. And even my family, a little more directly, my father, he went to Harvard Business School. So he was the director of Minority Supply Development Council. Long name, but long story short, he helped black businesses, small corporations do business with bigger corporations because he had the context and the pool. So again, he did that for like 20, 30 years. I remember, you know, I'm like 7 or 8 years old getting dropped off at Disney World as a young kid, you know, while he's at the office trying to make phone calls. So we've been putting in work for a long time, and all I can tell y'all is that, you know, for me, you know, I guess what changed for me was becoming a father and a husband. That kind of gained some extra perspective. I've always been involved with politics and whatnot. In fact, when I was in college, you know, at Florida A&M, I was a Student Government Association senator, and I was working with people like Andrew Gillum, who's now running for governor of the state of Florida. So we were fighting against the Republicans off the Hill, while on the Hill, we were passing some new legislation, innovative stuff. There used to be no Mr. FAMUs. Well, it was because of our leadership that now we have a Mr. FAMU. And in fact, the first Mr. FAMU came from this community right here, Charles Wesley Latimer from Jones High School. So we've been chopping at the bit for a while, and I've, you know, kind of saw where the direction of the community was going, and how a lot of times all of these meetings and different things that are happening at City Hall, it never quite reaches the people. Because I never really left, bro. The same neighborhood I grew up in as a kid, I'm telling you about all these stories, is the same neighborhood I'm raising my family in. So, you know, last year I'm taking my son to elementary school, to the same school I was at 30 years ago. And I guess to sum it all up, when you was a child, you spoke as a child, you acted like a child. But when you became a man, you put on your big boy shoes and you about that action. And so that's kind of a summation, if you will, about how we get to this point where we're in a position to really do some positive things for the city.
Okay. So, like, one thing, like, with, like, it's a question, but like you said, that how your whole family was involved. Is that like a lot of pressure for you, like, coming up? Like,
yeah, you know what? Actually, that is something, you know, that keeps me on the humble, right? You know what I mean? When, you know, in certain cases, like Jordan's son, can he be as great as Jordan? Maybe not, right? You know, but if I can be half as good as what they were able to do, you know, I could go down their laundry list where, you know, grandma bought Meals on Wheels. Well, I have some programs about bringing some careers on wheels. My father, again, helped, you know, some corporations here. For example, there's a large payroll company here that he helped bring from just $100,000 in sales to a multi-billion-dollar company. So I want to help some millionaires out here, and we got to have the political power, we have to have the financial power, and this right here, the media power, is an often forgot about one to get our message out. So that's why I'm glad I came here. I know, you know, media, you've been in doing media for a long time, been putting a lot of great images out there. I try to get this guy to do some of my flyers and whatnot. He was a little slow. We're gonna work on his customer service, but
just busy, that's all.
Just busy, man, busy.
That's why
But we're here to keep the work going and keep the building going. So that's what it is.
I have a question. Are you been in Orlando, for the better part of your life?
Yeah.
What is it about Orlando that you feel like you need to kind of step up and take a leadership role in?
Sure.
And what is it about?
Yeah, well, here's it is. I moved back into my neighborhood about 6 years ago, like I was saying, with my wife and my children. And, I started getting involved. I became president of my neighborhood, became vice president of Westlakes, which is a collection of neighborhoods around the Citrus Bowl, treasurer of the Disability Caucus, fighting for legalization of marijuana. And then after all these meetings, you get invited to stuff and you hear the stats, right? You hear that, black males ages 18 to 29 are the reason why, we have problems with crime in our community. And so you hear talking to grandma them, that, hey, there's no black men that are here. And so you keep hearing the thing, and you're either about talk or you're about action. So what did I do about a year ago? With the help of my wife and my business partners, we created One Community, One Orlando. And what we wanted to do in this particular role was address the need of the lack of opportunity for our young black male ages 14 to 18. The church used to be a place where, it used to have a lot of opportunities for our communities, but, millennials are not quite in church like they used to, and this is a responsibility either government or community is going to have to fix. And so what we've been able to do over the last year and a half, or about a year now, is provide kids with a unique salaried service opportunity. I saw what they did for Pulse nightclub. Like, they raised $30 million on behalf of that community. And I was like, wow, that's great. But if we can just get 1% of that, how much work could we do? At the same time, I saw government officials and other folks putting together job fairs and what have you. But if you looked at the evidence of it, 1,000 kids may have shown up, but only 50 to 100 kids get hired, leaving 900 kids. So I'm not about show. Let's get the work done. So what do? We said, listen, I don't have a big organization. I don't want to wait till writing grant funding. We're just going to start from the bottom, right? So I asked my friends for just $1 a month, $12 a year. And what we were able to do is take this dollar donation, dollar program, bundle it to $1,000 and just chop it up to 25 assignments and send the kids out to work. So we've been out to Lake Launa. We've been out to a couple of communities. We were in Pine Hills in January, and just find out, if you were to Google this later on or do it right now, Pine Hills community just got $7 million to do some cleanup efforts in the community, and we were just there 6 to 7 months ago. And again, we've been on the forefront of these issues, and I believe if we can start addressing these problems, what kind of success could we have in our communities? Because what happens is, in the urban West Orlando core, you have a lot of homeowners who have just been there 20, 30 plus years. You get a little older. But younger folks are not homeowners. So you got older population with young folks. It's a mix that hasn't quite been binded together. And, I think this is the calling of our generation, economic solutions. MLK, before he passed, started talking about revitalization and restoration in our communities. And if we don't get this thing right, I know we talk about racism and those issues, but they're still there and they're still prevalent. But if we don't get a handle of our economic solution at home, we're going to be forever behind. The income disparity is getting larger and larger. You're having a situation where you're going to get rich and richer and the poor, and that is going to cause a potential problem with safety in our communities, whether it be private property, government property, whomever else. So,
Jibreel, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you struck a chord on something, but explain to us, like, how do these new developments in Orlando affect us in a socioeconomic way?
Absolutely. Well, in Paramount, for example, access to food is a problem. If you don't eat, you're gonna have some problems. You ever not eat, you start having headaches, you start so on and so forth. So, for example, when you don't have access to food, and Paramount is considered a food desert, don't have food within 1 or 2 mile radius, and then the food that is in the area is not healthy. These healthy minds create healthy solutions, and the pattern, it just keeps on going and going. So to your point, you see Orlando, like many other communities, start to gentrify a little bit. And gentrification is a process where affluent people come back to the community. And this has been the vision of Buddy Dyer for the last 10 to 15 years, where he wants to make downtown a little bit more walkable, a little more accessible, but that hasn't quite panned out for our community. In fact, if you looked up some articles, he said a couple of years ago, judge me on how Paramore looks in a few years. Well, he gave himself an incomplete sometime last year. So if he's going to give us an incomplete, I know what I can give him.
Right, exactly.
So what I'm saying is a lot of times all these developments haven't served the community. For downtown Orlando, for that community, it's doing great. You know, I'm sure the soccer people love the fact that they can walk and have beer and all those other things. But Paramore used to be a community that was private. Businesses were flourishing. There was a Carver Theater. There was a whole host of businesses that served our area. And there was folks like Nat Ford who were championing Black lives early on. There used to be a lot of pressure to put, in fact, what's the word I want to call it? Kind of restrictions on people walking at night and what have you. But he stood and said, no, we're not going to allow that. But over the last few years, there was a number of different housing projects that didn't come online. If you look, for example, go down like I think that's Carter Street, you'll see there's some developments that are wide open, money didn't quite come through. It's a struggle on a lot of, and that's because we don't have a plan. Like from top down, like everyone's out here just fighting, you know, their own little battles. And we have to learn to work together. And I mean that most honestly and directly. If we don't do that, again, we're going to be putting ourselves in a disadvantaged situation because we're fighting not only a local environment, we're fighting a global market. And if we can get access to some of those dollars, we can start being champions in our own communities.
Can you express, a lot of people is very up in arms over Donald Trump being in office.
Sure.
But can you express the importance of voting locally and how that affects people
I was just
a
about to
little bit
ask that,
sooner
like, how do we vote for District 5 commissioner?
Yeah, so I'll lay that out a little bit. You know, voter apathy is a problem, right? Out of the 100% of people who could potentially vote, on a national election, you get only about 50% inclusion. That's it. Now, there's also some reasons for that. I mean, some people would argue, I have some folks like, you know, who are close to home who mention, you know, the dual head system. You got Democrats, Republicans, they've been in office again 20, 30 years and haven't delivered for our communities as of yet. Local politics are probably more important than anyone else because that starts to build the house, if you will. You got to have the struts locally so that way they can put pressure on the state legislature. They can put pressure on the governors, and then it goes to the higher level. So we got to get organized locally. And so that's what some of the things I've learned as president of my neighborhood, just knocking on doors, that it comes down to your neighbors. Who are the people that live in your area? Now, we can be community of folk, black folk who live in different areas, but it really comes down to your neighborhood, those people that live next to you that kind of can be your eyes and ears and ultimately are the closest one to you. So, you know, if you don't quite know your neighbor and you don't have an organization that can address some of the things that are happening right in your area, how can we talk about doing anything else? Because it's going to have to come right back down to your street level. So,
Understandable. That's what's up. Do you got anything else for the people that you want to kind of just leave them with?
sure. Well, number one, go to our website, www.ali4, that's F-O-R, district5.com. I would invite you guys tomorrow at the Callahan Center. They're having a debate of myself. There's 8 other candidates. This is like the WWE of District 5, right? It's 8 other people in there. You got the incumbent and 6 or 7 other people. So it'll be a good time for people to hear from myself and others what their positions are on the issues and what they plan to do about it. All I can tell everyone is this, is that, you know, Jibreel Ali ain't going nowhere. We in it for the long run. You know, I'm a problem for these people because I'm an anomaly, right? You know, I'm not supposed to be here. The story that I am, I'm supposed to go off somewhere else and do some other stuff, but I never wanted to leave the people. Like, that's always been something deep inside of me. Like, you know, I guess, you know, my name's Jibreel. I remember somebody was like, I used to always hear, man, I'm real about it. I'm real about it. And I was like, well, I'm going to be real about it, which means I'm going to identify with who I am, where I come from, and, you know, never leave my community behind. Grandma said, don't let her labor be in vain. And so for all that she did, for all that other people did to give me a chance to be here, and now these next generation, this turn-up generation, we was the crunk generation. We got crunk. This next generation turned up. If we don't turn them in the right direction, again, there's going to be problems. And as a father, these things are concerning to me because, as cheesy as it sounds, the children are our future. And we have to do our best to give them every shot we can to succeed because it's about passing the torch. We would not be here had it not been for other people. I like to tell folks this. If your parents were born before 1965 or you were born after 1965, essentially, you're the first generation of free black folks. Just let that sit in for a second. Yeah, I was born in 1980. My mother was born in 1950. They say make America great again, right? Well, when was it great? Well, we didn't get civil rights until 1965, at best. So having said that, we're the first generation to have what most would consider a fair opportunity.
I would think of the internet as our first version of actual free enterprise.
Sure.
Non-censorship and so on. So in that aspect, I would say we are the first free generation.
What I mean by the civil rights, the ability to even own and acquire certain things. There has been a lot of different steps. I mean, we didn't have, you couldn't really vote. You couldn't quite, my name's Jibreel Ali. I was born after this guy named Ezell Blair. He sat in the Greensboro sit-ins. Like people threw coffee at this man. We don't have to quite deal with that front of racism. However, recently, I don't know if anyone was following my Facebook posting, over the weekend, there were some law enforcement officers who had used some...
Yes, I actually did follow that. And you were posting...
we have
complaint
not only that, but you can find out that the FBI have talked about KKK infiltrating law enforcement. This is an issue that we've known for a long time. And again, public safety is the #1 job of a public servant.
Right.
And it is not fair, it is not right when people outside of our community can inflict harm and basically be exonerated for all of the offenses that happen. We cannot afford, this is 2017.
Right.
This ain't my grandma generation no more. We're not about that life, but we have to do it in a different way. We have to be smart about it. We have to be organized, something maybe we have never done in our time, except for maybe during the civil rights movement where we got organized. But we got to get back to some of that strength and bring in some new innovative ways to solve these challenges.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, appreciate your time.
Yes,
I appreciate
sir.
the knowledge. Let me shake your hand.
Thank you.
I feel like it's very, prestigious to have you up here and speaking for the people. And on our end, we're going to do whatever we can to be able to support you.
No doubt, no doubt. Listen, I appreciate
Thanks
y'all
for
giving me a
coming.
chance.
Yeah.
Y'all need to check out For the Culture. This is what it is.
Yeah.
And listen, we're going to be here.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing this?
Last year, since last year.
Since last year?
I don't remember, around summertime, right?
Have you come across a lot of people who say they will help and don't end up helping? Isn't that like the world?
Yeah, because life circumstances come across, and we understand that people get busy, they might have the intention of wanting to do it, but they might not have the opportunity to get out and do it. So that's when I will accept donations. I mean, I've received donations from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Great, she's a therapist, great joy therapist. I got to look up her information.
Those are questions that I like to ask people who do nonprofits. Because some people become discouraged when a lot of people offer help and nobody really going to do it like they're going to do it,
And it's okay. Sometimes I've only been able to make 12 packages, and sometimes it'll just be me and my niece, and we'll just come out of our own pocket, and he helps out. And, I mean, that's okay. But sometimes we come across months like this where I've made 48 packages, and that's great.
That's good. That sounds
yeah,
good.
so it's all God's will. So whatever it is that He, provides for us is what we give out. So.
That's good. Next Saturday?
It's every Saturday after the 15th.
Okay, every Saturday after the 15th.
Yes.
And I wanted to say, what made you want to come out and start this?
Yes, it's when I went on my spiritual journey right before I converted to Islam. I wanted to stop drinking, so I wanted to stop going out to parties. So I started putting my energy into something that made me dance. I didn't want to waste our money in clubs and in the liquor, so I started doing care packages.
You said
Patty Cakes, PATTYCAKES1.
C1, Patty Cakes 1. And if you want to help feed the homeless, you have to hit her up. We need you.
Yes.
I need you. because I was homeless once, and it took one person to feed me.
Yes, we're doing this for the culture.
For the culture, there we go. Love that.
So we back with For the Culture.
Yeah.
We got LV here. So go ahead, tell everybody what you do with your radio shows.
All right, so as we stated before, you know, I run Indie Jamz. A lot of people in the Orlando area know Indie Jamz for being a independent radio show. So what I do is I bring on independent artists, they bring their music. I'm not biased against artists. Obviously, you know, in Orlando you have some of the best people who think they're the best rappers, and you have some that aren't so great.
So how do you judge that? Like, how do you filter?
I don't judge people. What I do is I give constructive criticism. I still bring them on. I still give them radio airplay. You know, they submit their music, give them radio airplay. I interview them live on the show. But I can always offer some criticism and say, hey, maybe you should do this different. You should do that different. The best part about being in this entertainment industry here in Orlando is that I don't just meet artists. I meet producers, engineers, people who like the music plug, who have different connects, you know. People like Orange, who has shows. If I need anything, I'm like, listen, you know, this person needs a music video, or they need some headshots or something. So I'm connected all the way around to the point where whatever it is the artist may need, I can help them with it.
So has radio climate changed with the internet? I mean, do you still need a big studio and, you know, mics and all that, or are you doing what a lot of people are doing online and you're just hooking up somewhere
No.
in a small shack and you just got a mic and maybe a small camera?
I like that radio atmosphere. I like having the whole studio set up. I like having all the machines in front of me, 5 different computers, one for production, one to check the news, 2 TVs showing me what's going on around the world, one on ESPN, one on CNN. I like all that, and that isn't because I want to be the next big radio station. That's just because I like to know what's going on. And in order to know all that, you can't just sit there, you know, with a microphone in front of you and just talk. So let's say right now, something happens in North Korea. You know, we have to know about that right away. And you have a voice, each of you. We wouldn't be sitting here right now if you didn't have a voice.
Right.
So you use that voice and you let other people know what's going on. So that's why it's important to have all that stuff around. And for the artists, they like it too. I mean, they love the atmosphere. They come to, you know, the studio. It's not the biggest studio in the world, you know, but they love being in that atmosphere where the lights are on, cameras check, you know, microphones, everything's set up, and they can be comfortable and know that, all right, you got 10, 15 minutes, and then, you know, next artist.
Right. Well, speaking of the artists, what are some of the bigger artists that have actually played on your station?
Well, you know, I want to give a big shout out to all the artists in Orlando, because I do get a lot of support from Orlando. You know, I don't want to sit here and give off every single name because I'd be here forever. I bring on literally 4 artists every single show. One show, that's 4 times a week. Multiply that by Indie Jamz, who's been on for 1.5 years.
I'd say like popular artists, like any upcoming artists like Lil Wab,
Black AP.
Black AP.
Listen, I will say this: I could always use more artists. You know,
Right.
I don't go out. I can't sit here and say I go out of my way and bring on every artist that I think is the next big artist. But I just make the platform available for the artists that can utilize it. Artists who feel like, hey, I need this exposure, I need to be heard. Those are the artists I like to work with. Sometimes the bigger artists, they feel like, you know, they kind of have what it is they're doing already.
So it sounds like you're doing a lot of artist development.
Yeah.
So are you also establishing these artists as far as making sure they're copywriting their music and they're getting paid for their spins, getting, you know, tracking their PDS and all that?
Yeah, that's where it comes in, where, you know, artists really need to start registering. You know, what is it, Sound Exchange? You know, these things are important. I can't sit there and be like, hey, you know, go do this right now.
Right.
You know, what's that saying? Like, you can't take the camel to the water. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
But you can't make them drink. These artists, you know, I get some of the best artists who are still missing pieces, and I get some of the artists who are so hungry that they would do anything to make it, that they actually listen to me and take my advice. But you can't make anybody do anything.
You want to get paid for your music, you better register.
And these are things as an artist that you should already have established before you even get to me.
Right.
Before you even say, hey, LV, I'm going to send my music to Indie Jamz. I want to set up an interview for next week. 3 months ago, 6 months ago when you created that song. You should have all your stuff set up already. And you know what it is? It's like, I deal with the craziest things because sometimes I'll get a song and when I transfer it onto my production computer and get it set up to be played on air, all the lettering is messed up. I don't know who the artist is. I don't know what the song is called. I don't know what year it came out. I don't know what genre of music it is. I've already heard it, so then I have to step up and fill it out and do everything the right way. But that does not mean at that point that that artist will be getting, paid. They're going to get no royalties from that.
Just because like the metadata, their whole signing up for the registration, and they'll have their codes. Like me as a manager, I run to that all the time.
Yeah.
But it's like a lot of local Orlando artists, they can just go out there, feet on the ground and running, but they're skipping all these steps. They want to skip so many little things.
It's tough, because I do deal with a large number of artists, but my job, no, I'm not going to sit there and walk you through the process of how to get it done, but I do think it's important that they get it done prior to even get it to me. I like the artists who know what they want already, who have it all together and are, the interviews just flow because they already know what they're doing. I don't have to sit here and say, hey, this is what we're going to talk about on my show because they already know what they want to say. They're so passionate. They love what they do so much that it's just natural.
Now, this seat that you're sitting in right now, being asked questions, is a pretty interesting,
I like
position
it.
because
Cool.
you're usually giving interviews.
Yeah.
So tell people like, what is it that how do you prepare for an interview when you're interviewing an artist? What is it that you're trying to get to know, and what's the wildest interview you've ever had?
There's been some wild ones. I'll just go for last night, for example. I go live every Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m. And it started off a little slow, because some artists, like you said, they aren't prepared. I can't sit there and say, hey, I tell you right before you go on air, look, I'm going to ask you about your music career. I'm going to ask you why you're so passionate about music. I'm going to ask you where I can get your music. I'm going to ask you, to give some shout outs to people who, inspire you to keep making music. These things are important because that's kind of what makes an artist. So, and that's before I even play your song. I let you know all these things, and some people just, they get a little nervous, I guess. Even though I ask them, hey, are you nervous? They'll be like, no, but you kind of sound nervous. So, but you just go with it. It's just a natural flow, and it's up to me to make the artist feel comfortable. I'm sitting across from them, so I have to really sit there and talk them through and ask questions. And sometimes when an artist is a little reserved or they feel like, they don't really have much to say, I just start answering questions for them. I'm like, so, you ask a question in the question and kind of answer it so that they can just agree with it. And I don't know what kind of interview that is sometimes, but those aren't definitely not my favorite.
Now, we talked about artist development. We talked about professionalism a little bit. Who are some artists that's local that you can say that are definitely doing the right things?
Doing the right things.
To get to that next level.
Local here in Orlando, I've dealt with so many artists. I want to go back real quick in time because when I first started Indie Jamz, it was about 1.5 years ago, and I got so much love and support from East Side of Orlando. And I know I hate to separate, but they're East Side, West Side, but you know what, it is, And so there are a couple artists like AR Restless or Young Kiddo, and these type of artists, they're different. You know what I mean? They're not doing it because they want to be the next rapper. They're doing it because this is what they live for. Like they eat, live, like breathe everything music. So
passionate about it.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I run into a lot of artists like them, and I can't say that they are on that level, but I like the artists, man, who just they've got the shows lined up. You always see them in the studio. They're dropping new music all the time, and it's not that they're dropping music and you're getting sick of it because you're seeing it all the time. They're just doing their thing, and it's beautiful to watch. It really is.
So, Elvy, where can we find you online, or where can we listen to you? Like, what's
Indie
the actual
Jamz,
radio
everything.
dial?
Indie Jamz, everything. Like, you can download TuneIn Radio app. You type in WJHM 102 Jams, and then that'll pull up Indie Jamz. Obviously, you can listen in every Tuesday, 6 to 8. And I also want to emphasize WJHM 102 Jams itself. Because it used to be 102 Jams FM, and people ask me all the time, is it FM? No, it's not. What is now 101.9 is AMP Radio. And shout out to AMP. I mean, they have good music, but that's not my style. I like indie music. I like indie artists. I like indie everything. Because, even for the culture, y'all wait, just give me like 10 minutes. I'm going to try to, work my way to get you guys on too. What I love is giving people a voice, a platform. It's not just about Indie Jamz. Indie Jamz was just my gateway. It was just a door to open up to now I have the entire Jamz network that I can fill And shout out to all the shows, man. Plugged In Radio, The Zone, Throwback Vibes, Check the Rhyme, even, what was it, on Fridays, I can't even think of it right now, but listen, shout out to Elliot Martinez. Listen, all these shows, I took people who have a voice, who have something they want to say, who have something to offer, not just to artists, but to the community, and then molded it and brought it around to itself where I don't just have an indie radio show, I have an indie network. And I'm looking to grow, I'm looking to expand, and I'm trying to bring everyone together. And it's not easy, let me tell you.
Right.
It's really not. You would think, oh my God, everyone's talking about unity, everyone wants to come together. As soon as it comes time to wrap around, you just start seeing people disappearing. Just like, well, you know, that's what happens.
Everybody can't come.
You know, everybody can't come, but you would like for everyone
Like
to
Rick
come
said in
together.
The Walking Dead, not everybody gonna make it.
You would bring up Rick. So listen, I have some questions too, because usually I'm on the other side, and you guys have For the Culture, and you know, I know my future for Indie Jamz is Jamz itself. As I told you, I'm trying to build a whole network around where, you know, it's indie everything. Where's For the Culture going? I mean, I'd love to bring you guys on. I see what you guys got going on
she
here.
flipped it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I can't speak for the whole For the Culture, but we're just trying to get bigger, expand to where we're on the scene as soon as Orlando news is happening.
Yeah.
There's a new show, new artists jumping off. Shit, if anything happens down on East Colonial, we're the first ones on the scene.
I love it.
We're gonna be a whole new source for everything for the culture.
I can agree with that, because what I want is every time any indie artist, I don't care if you're from California, I don't care if you're from New York, I don't care if you're from Europe, if you are coming to Orlando, I want to be that one stop, like, hey, we got to hit Indie Jamz real quick, or Elvy, I'm not available on Tuesday, I'm available Friday, that's great, I have shows on Friday too. You guys make sure you stop by the station and get love.
Different flavors
I
for
mean, we
Orlando.
work together, you know what I'm saying? Everybody works together and
I
make
love it.
Orlando one.
Right.
I love it.
Just, you
Definitely
know, blow
works.
this thing up, put it on the map, and, you know.
Just gotta take over
just
Orlando
pay
first.
For real. But yeah, that's what it's all about, exposure and making sure that, you know, people are just, you know, up to date on, you know, topics and issues and things that everybody loves to talk about, you know, so, you know, something that everybody can just relate to. And, you know, everybody does their own thing on the side too, so it's just something that we all do collectively to, you know, combine powers, you know. Kind of like, you know.
I'm all for combining powers, and I hope that, you know, For the Culture.
That's what we're doing, is connecting right
and
now.
Indie Jamz
you know.
can connect,
We
yes.
like walking
and be
APIs
something
right
bigger.
now, you know.
Yeah. Well, you'll be surprised. We'll see what happens with Jamz. You know, I have a lot going on right now, and I'm looking to bring people on as well as, you know, expand myself. So as I'm growing, I'm trying to bring everybody with me. So listen, I know we don't have much time, so I want to make sure everybody follows Indie Jamz on all social media platforms: Instagram, Indie Jamz; Facebook, Indie Jamz; Twitter, Indie Jamz. Just Indie Jamz everything.
You do a live stream every week, plug that in as well.
Yeah, live
everything,
stream. You guys can
everybody.
follow me on Facebook at Elvy, Elvy Natalia, Natalia. Love you, Mom. Thanks for my name.
Welcome back to For the Culture.
For the
What up, what
culture.
up?
For the
Yeah.
culture.
That's what's up, man. We wanted to talk to you about one of the dopest, newest open mics. It's called New Piece Mondays.
New piece?
New Piece.
New Piece?
Mondays is an open mic where MCs, rappers, singers could come through and spit their art. But the caveat is everything got to be a cappella. No beats, no band, no none of that. Everything has to be a cappella. And the reason why we do that is because we want to make sure that the audience can actually hear people's words, hear what they have to say. And that's what
Feel the
spoken
emotion.
word is. Truly, every emotion, a lot of people kind of hide behind the music, hide behind the beat. We strip all that away, and it's a dope show every week. But what's your experience? Because you come a lot, so you know what I'm saying. What's your experience?
You already know me. It's your boy Solo Savvy.
Yeah.
SAVVY, Surveyed. Everybody know me in there. Man, I love New Piece Monday. I love the open mic scene all together, man. It's just the first time I went to open mic spot, it was like going to church.
Right.
I literally got up, man. I walked up to the mic. I'm like, yo, I'm the nigga y'all came to see tonight. This is my show. I thought I was at the altar, and Deb, you know, Deb was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this ain't how this show
Yeah,
works, bro.
right.
And since then, I haven't found a spot like that until New Piece Monday.
Uh.
So that's why I rock some New Piece Monday like that. It really give you that feel of this is where I should be. I made it here when I was supposed to be here. So I love that aspect. I'll be there all the time.
Absolutely. So you're traditionally a recording artist, but how is it different with the aspect that you can't necessarily use music at the show? You got to just rely on your bars.
Well, I hope you have some bars if that's
Yeah.
what you're relying on.
Yeah.
But me, I record my music, and I think when I do my music, the songs that I do record, I want them to have some type of meaning to me in the first place. So it's easy for me to not do them without a beat, because I already know the feel of the words that I'm saying when I get up and I perform myself. So, I mean, that's what it is for me, to each his own, you know.
So is this all poetry, or is it spoken word?
See, the thing about it is a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions and think that spoken word is just poetry. No, spoken word is right now what we're doing. You know, we're just speaking. We're just speaking
Yeah.
words. So whether you're singing, whether you're rapping, you don't have to have a beat attached to it in order for it to be spoken word. So you could sing, you could rap, you could do poetry, you could do comedy, you could do any of that stuff. You could get up and just give a good speech, and it's all spoken word. So it's all of those things in one without having to worry about a terrible sound system because you can't really hear what the person has to say.
I mean, now
So-
rap right now is all acapella.
Word.
So-
Yeah.
To me, it all depends on like how you feel. Battle rap is a little bit different to me though. Battle rap
It
is
is
like
different.
it's much different than spoken word because you go in there battle rap. I mean, you go in there ready to attack
Because you're playing off of somebody.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
you
saying?
feel
It's a
me?
play.
You're ready
It's a
to
play.
attack in my brain anyway. But spoken word is more of, you know, this is how I feel at the moment, and this is the vibe that I want to be in. This is the direction I'm gonna take it to. So that's just me.
Yeah, and that's music in general, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
one thing that we do that's very interesting is every artist, they have to come up with their own creative way to be able to make music if they want to make music. Like the last show, we had an artist where this side of the room clapped like that, and then at the other side of the room, they clapped like.
Right.
And then they made a beat, you know what I'm saying, back and forth, and then he was able to rhyme and spit on top of that. So it kind of forced him to be creative, and which is something you should be doing in your performances in order to stand out anyway. So that's why, you know what I'm saying, New Piece Mondays is as unique as it is.
Check it out.
If
Yeah.
you get that in the room where you don't got the beat, and that's just an organic interaction
Yeah.
that they do great.
Yeah.
That's a nice piece. A lot of people don't really know how to convert it into the big stage because they never really been on that smaller stage.
Absolutely,
True
absolutely.
indeed.
So that's the big key, man. That's the major key.
And when all said and done, man, come out to the show. It's a great vibe. If you're a new artist, if you're not an artist, if you're a poet, if you're a singer, if you're a spectator, come out, enjoy yourself. Bring your phone if you wrote something on the way and you just want to get it out. That's your new piece.
New Piece.
New
and
Piece.
That's what it is,
And
man.
where's
You know,
New Piece
every
Mondays?
New Piece Mondays is every week, 7 o'clock at 3 Mass Art Gallery. We're gonna put the address in the description.
Right by the liquor store. You
know,
can't miss it.
Can't miss it, man. And it's a
Turn
black-owned
up and
business.
turn up.
Black-owned business, African Art Gallery, the dopest place that you could actually go to. You can just go there and shop, and
True.
you're good. You know what I'm saying?
It's nice.
So,
It's real nice.
that's what it
Is
is.
there free liquor? No.
The liquor store is separate.
We got a black-owned business that, you know what I'm saying, when they, partner with us, then we could, offer liquor,
Yeah.
So, we're just all about building community.
Is the event free?
The event is not free. The event is $10.
Only $10.
Only $10, man. You could freaking get a sandwich and a burger. You know what I'm saying? It's all it is. And the reason why we do that, I make sure that I charge because it's for artists. And this is another thing. A lot of artists think, oh, well, I'm an artist, I shouldn't have to pay. Well, if you can't invest $10, then you're not really an artist. Because look at all the top artists, you know what I'm saying, how much they had to invest in their own stuff. So if we invest into, we all invest $10, then we can have a beautiful event. And that's why, we are able to rock every week.
Word. You know what I'm saying? So
That's us. Solo Savage,
No
my
Piece.
boy Orange, New Piece, Mondays,
New Piece Mondays,
for the
man.
culture.
New Piece
Check us out.
Let's go, chick. Let's get it. What's going on for the culture? We in our hot topic segment, about to talk about some news. All right, cool. First things first. Kyrie is a Boston Celtic. How y'all feel about it, man?
Hey, y'all clap for Kyrie, bro.
He wanted to go anyway. He wanted to leave, right?
Somebody got to do it. Rondo, you know what I'm saying, ain't there no more. Somebody got to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So was it a good move? Was it a bad move? What you think?
Cleveland definitely win in this trade. Definitely. Easy, hands down.
Shouts out to Cleveland.
Hands down. Do we even know what the trade was? Or do you want to go into
They got, all right, so just to get into detail or whatever, Isaiah Thomas got traded for, Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder got traded for Kyrie Irving. As a matter of fact, I think they got a first round pick as well.
They got Jeff Green and they got the New Jersey Nets 2018 first round pick.
First round, y'all.
So I think that's like
That
a
was-
lot.
yeah.
You just gave Cleveland 30 points a game with 6 assists, plus one of their second best defenders, plus the Nets are a horrible team. You gave them all of that just for just Kyrie.
And that lottery pick.
Who won MVP? Who won MVP?
Westbrook. What do you mean?
Westbrook.
Oh, I'm late.
How was that relevant to anything, bro?
I thought it was Isaiah
But
Thomas.
you know what? Isaiah Thomas was in the running. He was in the running. You know what I'm saying? Kyrie could have made an argument for
I want
He was top five.
to say, y'all, Kyrie Irving is washed up. He's a Kyle Lowry. He is, man. He's one of those guys, man. Well, we gonna see how good he is without the best player in the world.
those is-
Well, for the mouth.
Can we actually put? Can we say somebody washed up when they only 25 years old? Can we really
can't
say that?
Yeah.
Can we really say
But
that?
really-
Yeah, he
Right.
wasn't like he didn't got
That's
an
so much
injury.
upside with
Kyrie's
him.
in his prime,
Give me thoughts,
man.
though.
Kyrie was doing a double-double in the playoffs.
If he's in
Kyrie
his prime,
is-
he's a bum.
You know,
If
no.
he's in his prime,
I think
mean,
Kyrie
come on, bro.
Kyrie has something to prove,
He-
and he's gonna do his thing at the Celtics.
I don't think he
they,
can.
They know how to build.
I hope
champions.
the Celtics is his prime.
They know how to build champions.
I don't think he can outdo what Isaiah Thomas did. Isaiah Thomas came there as a nobody and brought them to the playoffs, and last year was the #1 seed in the East.
Yeah.
I'm talking about. I mean, there's nobody does. I mean, him and John Wall, the only two people I know that brought a dead team to some. Look at Kyrie. He was there 3 years before LeBron got there. He couldn't do that at all.
He couldn't
Make
do
a
it.
deal.
He's not gonna
You
do
can't
that.
make
He's
the
not
playoffs,
gonna
right?
do
In
that
this
to
league,
Boston.
you need firepower. You cannot do it without help.
Boston had
I mean,
nothing.
Westbrook. Look at these.
Boston had Kelly
Harden.
Olynyk.
These guys
Boston
can't do
had
it by
nothing.
themselves.
Boston
If these
had
guys
nothing.
couldn't do it by themselves, I don't know why they expect
Isaiah
Kyrie to
Thomas
do it
did.
by himself.
Isaiah Thomas did it by himself.
Isaiah
He
Thomas
came
did.
there
I
as
mean,
nothing.
#1 seed.
Champion? Did anybody get a ring?
He was the
No,
#1 seed.
but-
I thought that's what we were
But he
talking
made
about.
Bradley better
That's
and
what we're
got
talking
but-
about. I thought we were talking about getting
but-
championships here.
We are talking about
There's
that.
32
But we're
teams
talking
in the
about
league. There's
Isaiah
only
Thomas versus what's your boy name again? Kyrie Irving. I don't even want to say his name, man. He sucks, man.
All right, so I'm gonna say yes or no. Do you think it was a fair trade? Yes, no.
No. Oh, it was an absolute. No, it wasn't a fair trade at all.
Hey, pound
Why
for
is that?
pound.
It wasn't a fair trade because Isaiah Thomas is 2 times the point guard Kyrie Irving will ever be, bro.
All right, what about you?
I feel like Boston lost because they lost their identity. Isaiah Thomas brought their city
Fair
back
trade, yes or
together.
no?
No, it wasn't a fair. I mean, well, they agreed to it, but I feel like Boston lost a lot in that because they lost their identity. They just surrounded around Isaiah Thomas, the whole city. That's like the Iverson with Philly. You know how they surrounded them. They lost that. So that's gone. Their identity is gone. So now they're bringing in, one of their biggest competitors, and it takes a lot. In Boston, they love their players, so he got to prove to them.
I think it'll take a lot more for Boston to lose their identity. I mean, Boston itself is a championship staple. I mean, that's what they're known for. Every decade they bring us rings. So I don't think this
Not
trade
this
is
decade.
going to end the legacy of what the Boston Celtics represent. I think, in fact, what they're doing is they're testing out new blood. They need to bring something in there, and Kyrie Irving represents the new wave.
I got
Kyrie
a
is the new
question,
wave.
though.
I think it's a fair trade.
And y'all will respect
You
his
think it's a
game.
fair
I think it's a fair trade.
Y'all gonna respect his game, trust me.
Because I don't think you could build a team as great as Isaiah Thomas was. He's only 5'9". He's a liability on defense. I think building a team around Kyrie Irving, a lot of people think this is just a trade and Boston is done. I don't think Boston is done. I think Boston is still going to make the building blocks. They got rid of Jay Crowder just to get rid of that cap space to make the building blocks. You could build a team around Kyrie Irving. I think that's what they're going to do. However, he was a problem in Cleveland. Cleveland only had a ceiling. They could only go so far.
You're right.
So I think it was a fair trade because get him out of there if you want to be the center focus of a team. We'll
Right.
get Isaiah Thomas. He can put up the same numbers as Kyrie, and it's a fair trade.
Yeah.
Moving on next to power. The big thing that happened.
They killed Raina.
They killed Raina, man. What's y'all
Raina.
thoughts about it, man? What y'all thoughts about it?
You lame if you're not watching Power
apparently
2017.
Tyreek is
Go watch
this-
no Game of
is
Thrones.
this-
It's lame, by the way.
It's this
Oh,
kind
that
of
goat.
weak
Oh, I see how it
character
is.
who makes a lot of mistakes. I mean, he got his sister killed, and that's something that I don't know, man. Like, what y'all think about that? Like,
Tariq, I mean, he's been voted as like one of the most hated characters on TV. I mean, this year for real.
Wow.
I've been wanting to beat his ass for a while.
more than Joffrey.
I said one of
It's up there, you know what I'm saying?
Joffrey's up
It's
there.
up there.
He's Joffrey's like, comparison, but yeah.
I feel like Tariq though, we all knew a Tariq when we was Tariq's age.
Yeah.
That's why I love Power. I don't know a Tommy Egan, but I'm saying I knew a Tariq.
Stay away from the Tommy.
Yeah, if I
I knew a
saw
Tariq.
I
I
get
knew a
away
kid
from
who
it. Right.
rebelled from his parents, called them names, and didn't realize what he really had.
See, Tyreek is a polarizing character because you got people that just hate him, you know what I'm saying? But he's really entertaining for the show. You take Tyreek out of it, then you know what I'm saying, you're only really dealing with the ghost Tommy situation. So it makes it interesting. So tell me yes or no. If y'all was freaking that scene where the dude had the gun in the arena, would y'all have said something? Or would y'all have just kind of like,
that's my sister.
And, you know what I'm saying?
I can't face my mother and father
That's your
knowing
sister.
that.
How you gonna
I
go
can't
home
go
without her?
I think that's
I
why
can't
they
go
hate
home
Tyreek.
knowing
He didn't do
that,
nothing.
with them saying, Dad, they killed your sister instead of you.
Like,
My family was
like,
wrong.
You might as well be dead too. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Like,
like,
they'll
yeah.
never live that.
So where does this show go on from here?
and she died defending him. So
This show from here, where does it go?
Yeah, where does it go with that storyline? Does Tyreek eventually get his upcome, or does he learn from his mistakes? I mean, where do we go with this
I think
character?
that just shows how Ghost has to get back in the game to avenge his daughter's murder. And he doesn't want to do that. And so that's what it's a good transition to bring back what James St. Patrick, aka Amari Hardwick, shouts out to Amari Hardwick, what he has to do to sacrifice his whole case, his livelihood, the things he got with David Stern, whatever the dude name is. And I don't know, man. I just really feel like Tariq, bro, is going to be Tariq for life. After this show, they're going to call him Tariq. Everybody say it.
Forever
Just like
typecast.
Yeah.
Forever typecast. That's what's up. All right, cool. Moving along. Game of Thrones,
Oh, my
man.
fucking
Game of
God,
Thrones.
bro.
What's y'all thoughts on Game of Thrones? I'm gonna start with you first.
I mean, Jon Snow is definitely the coldest of the cold. He took on, you know what I'm saying, basically a whole army. He took one for the team, and then, got saved by his uncle, out in the middle of the snow.
Shouts out to Benji.
So it was a wonderful story, and not only that, now we got real destruction coming on with the White Walkers gaining a new dragon.
Oh, man.
So now I actually was thinking in my head, like, this is like a fair comparison to probably like, North Korea gaining like, masters,
Nuclear weapons.
Nuclear
Yeah.
weapons. The whole time, everybody's kind of ignoring the fact that the White Walkers are coming and that they're not, capable of even existing. And now they got everything they need to destroy them. So I'm thinking like, man, that's some ill comparisons you could think about, how we kind of ignore the threat a little bit. So it's like it's winter coming. But anyway, that's just my own thinking. What do y'all think about Game of Thrones?
Well, dial it back just a little bit. I know you spoke about Jon Snow and all the good things he did. I think you got to think about everything else that's going on, like what's going on in Winterfell with how they're trying to give Sansa all the they want to rally behind her. And Jon Snow, he got that Stark blood and he's making some stupid moves. Like they said, they would advise him not to go to the South like everybody else. And
Right.
and I'm just saying, if he would have told them he's going above the wall, they would have completely advised against it. They would have sent 1,000 people in his place. I'm saying he's
Right.
risking a lot.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. As a leader, you gotta, come on, fall the fuck back.
And
for real,
Sansa is very vulnerable now.
Yeah, with Littlefinger all in the
Yeah.
air and stuff. So I'm just saying, like this. He's the leader. They chose him. He need to, play that role too. So
Right.
the story's really good. I like how they exposed he's a Targaryen by marriage. Did y'all catch that in like the episode 5 with
Oh,
Gilly,
yeah.
what she read in the book about
Absolutely,
Prince
absolutely.
Rhaegar? That was crazy. A lot of people
Right.
didn't catch that. So it's good. Yeah, it's through marriage and whatnot. He's the actual Targaryen, so that's good that
Right.
him and Khaleesi, they're kind of foreshadowing it. They're gonna get together. So
Right.
it'll be so.
Now Khaleesi is his auntie, right?
Auntie.
But you know what?
But
I know-
Targaryens
the
inbreed
Targaryens,
anyway.
they
Keep
inbreed
that white hair,
anyway.
so.
But I think the episode was a good episode, man. They keep coming episode after episode. There's no wasted breath with it. So I think it's gonna be dope, man. How does it all end, man? Does she become the Mad Queen? Is she? Think about it. We know who John is. She doesn't know who John is.
Only Brand knows this.
Only Brand who knows
Brand
that.
knows that.
Is she gonna be? Is she gonna be favorable to that or unfavorable to it? Because he has more of a right to the throne than she does.
Now,
I
Game of
mean,
Thrones throw curveballs.
Right now, you can arguably say that Cersei is the Mad Queen right now.
Yeah.
You know, so it's an interesting dynamic to see how Cersei's going to play along with her in fighting the White Walkers. Are they going to combine or not, you know, to actually, you know, fight this major army that's coming? Because they can't be fighting each other while the dead are fighting them. So
Yeah, they all
these are the big, you know, dynamics in Game of Thrones and how interesting, you know, things.
I
gonna
think
turn.
Brand plays the biggest part in this whole situation.
Yeah.
Have you heard
Brand
some of
is-
the theories? Brand may fuck around and
Right.
fuck up and be the Night King for all we
Yeah.
know. He
Man, who
warning some
knows?
people. So anyway,
Next
but
episode, we
crazy.
got the next episode. Make sure y'all watch the
Gotta
next
wrap it
episode of Game of Thrones. Next episode of
Comment
Power.
on that.
All of that. You
Let
know what I'm
us
saying?
know-
Make sure
let
y'all
us know
comment.
what
Let us
y'all-
know what y'all think. What
Make
y'all
a
think
spoiler
next
alert.
episode. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be. Make sure you put a spoiler alert in case y'all like bootlegging the episodes or something like that.
Or-
But all right, just to wrap it up, man. This is for the coach of your boy Orange's Media here.
Rams.
K-Mo.
For the coach, y'all. Peace.